It has been a while since I did any work on the V8 TJ project. Now that things have calmed down a bit, now we can get back to business. So here is the frame off the original 97 Sahara. As you can see, it's pretty well beat up, and that's the good side. It's really bad over here. And the skid plate had actually fallen down. That's just tack welded into place right now. The more I look at this, the rear spring seats are all rotted away, and you can't really tell how bad the frame actually is on the inside. So instead of spending the $700+ on materials to fix it, I was able to find a frame online from a local salvage yard. This is out of a 2006 six-cylinder Sport, I believe, but as you can see, it's basically perfect. So I snagged this one for about the same money that it would cost me just to buy the repair sections from Auto Rust Inc. That's still a good option to repair the frames, especially since you don't have to remove the whole body. But because the whole body was off, this is by far the better option for me. And today we just cleaned up the frame a little bit, cut the original motor mounts off the frame. So tonight I'm going to set up the advanced adapter kit in there on the 318, hook up the transmission. I'll get the skid plate bolted into this frame temporarily, and then drop it all in place and see how it lines up. Hopefully I can maneuver it with one person to get it in there enough to tack in the motor mounts, so we can take it all apart again and weld the motor mounts fully and get a coat of POR 15 on the frame tonight. So pretty ambitious. Let me see how we can do. Okay, the motor mounts and the brackets are installed on the engine. It's pretty straightforward design. It's got these CAD plated brackets that grab the ears off the side of the engine block, and then these weld-on brackets attached by one bolt and a couple bushings, and those pins actually supposed to line up with a hole already in the frame to locate these brackets. So you could theoretically tack them on in place first, but I'm not sure exactly where this is going to lie. I'm going to set the engine with the transmission attached to it and the transmission mount lined up with the skid plate holes where it belongs. That way I don't have to adjust the length of the front or rear drive shafts. So this is the passenger side. There's only 3 holes or 3 ears on the block, so you can only use 3 bolts on the passenger side. But again, it's the same principle. You get the CAD plated block mount, the 2 bushings, and the weld-on frame mount. So let's get this engine up on the hoist. We'll attach the 5-speed transmission and get it in the frame and try to line up the mounts. Okay. I just ran into a problem. I actually should have expected this. The transmission skid plates were changed in 2003, I believe, and I am attempting to bolt on a 1997 skid plate onto a 2006 frame, so none of the holes line up. So we're going to scratch that idea, and I'm going to call the salvage yard where I got the frame tomorrow and ask them why they didn't send me the skid plate that should come with it, and hopefully that works. But we'll get one. In the meantime, I'll probably just drop the engine in there and use the holes that advanced adapter tells us to use to line up their motor mounts. So I could drop the engine in the middle of the frame rails and level it, and at that point tack weld the mounts in there. I'd rather know exactly where my transmission is going to land on the transmission mount, but even with the 2003 or newer skid plate, I don't know whether it would be a manual or automatic, and I'm not sure that it would matter. I don't know if the holes are drilled properly in the later model skid plates. So let's just push on ahead and get these motor mounts welded in here and hope for the best when it comes time to mount the transmission. I went ahead and installed the motor mount brackets on the frame as indicated by the instructions. Took some measurements from the engine and they should be right on. They're fully welded now, and just rinse the frame off after giving it a thorough degreasing. So let it dry up a bit, then I'll wipe it down with some Prep-Sol and get a coat of POR 15 on it before I go home tonight. And then we'll be all ready to start the assembly. Grab some new suspension pieces, and not sure what I'm going to do for a lift yet. But the frame will be done. I'll get the transmission skid plate tomorrow, hopefully. And we'll get the whole powertrain set in there before the body goes on, get everything measured, drive shafts lengthened or shortened as necessary. Just get it all mocked up before the body goes on. The POR 15 is done. It's one heavy coat. Get the new motor mounts welded in. This is supposed to be semi-gloss black with the UV protection. We'll see how it flattens out as it dries overnight, but I think if it stays this shiny, we're going to have to put a coat of semi-gloss chassis paint over it. But it is protected. I don't anticipate this frame giving anybody a problem anytime soon. The POR 15 is a bear to work with who's ever worked with it before. Be careful not to get it on your skin, because the only thing that removes it is time. One trick a friend showed me, I'll share, is when you open a new can, tape up the rim of the can with masking tape, so when you peel it off, the rim of the can is like new, free of any paint or any puddling. And then you put the cap back on. That way you'll be able to open the can a second time. All too often I buy a quart of this stuff, put the cover on, and then the paint hardens and seals the cover shut, and then you're using a can opener to get the cover off, and it's all distorted and doesn't go back on a second time. So we'll give this a try. The masking tape around the rim, hopefully that does the trick, because I'll be using that paint hopefully many more times. So that's it for tonight. Next time we'll get some suspension underneath the frame, get it rolling, and start installing the drivetrain. I think I'm just going to go with a Grand Cherokee cargo coil in the front. Last time I used those, I got 2.5 inches of lift, which was perfect. In the rear, I may buy a set of coils or just use spacers to get 2 inches of lift. And then I'm going to put a 1-inch body lift when the body goes back on. So that'll give me 3 to 3.5 inches total lift without having to put expensive control arms in or change drive line angles or anything like that. This is not going to be a rock crawler or off-road. It's just going to be a fun Jeep with just a bit more power than it needs to blast around in. So that's the plan, and see where it takes us next time.